Okay, let's talk about grammar. I know. For a lot of us, that word just brings back these memories of, red ink all over our peepers and just rigid, boring rules. But what if I told you we've been looking at it all wrong? Today, we're going to completely reframe grammar, not as a set of rules you have to get right, but as this incredibly powerful toolkit you can use to build meaning.
So let's just kick things off with this one big question. What if the whole point of grammar isn't about passing a test or avoiding mistakes? What if it's actually about something, I don't know, way more creative and powerful? The actual art of making meaning itself.
And that question, it really gets to the heart of two totally different ways of looking at language. On one hand, you've got traditional grammar, which is all about the rules, what's correct versus what's incorrect. But on the other side, there's this thing called functional grammar, and it completely flips the script. It focuses entirely on meaning. So instead of asking, is this sentence correct, it asks, hey, what does this sentence actually do?
All right, so first up, let's actually rethink what we mean by the rules of grammar. What are they even for? This is where we get into the really cool part of this new approach.
Okay, so there's this approach, a real game changer, from a linguist named Michael Holliday, called functional grammar. He saw grammar as this dynamic meaning-making resource. So forget that dusty old rulebook. Instead, picture a massive workshop, just filled with tools. Every single grammatical choice you make, every word, every phrase, is a different tool you're using, consciously or not, to build something very specific.
And this, right here, is the absolute key. We stop asking if a sentence is technically correct, and we start asking, what does it achieve? What effect does choosing this word over that one have on you, the listener? How does structuring a sentence this way shape the entire message? This one little shift in perspective, well, it changes everything.
Which brings us to this really empowering idea. Using grammar isn't passive. It's this active, creative process where you're constantly making choices. I absolutely love this analogy. Think of language like it's your own personal control panel, covered in buttons and dials and switches. Traditional grammar is great at naming all the parts. It'll tell you, this is a noun, that's a verb. It's like it just labels the buttons. But functional grammar? That's the user manual. It shows you what happens when you press those buttons, how to combine them to create exactly the effect you want.
Okay, so how does this whole control panel thing actually work? Well, it turns out language is the ultimate multitasker. It's got these 3 secret jobs it's always doing, all at the same time.
No, seriously, every single time you say or write something, you're performing 3 different functions simultaneously. It's an incredible feat that our brains just do without us even noticing.
And here they are, what the linguists call metafunctions. Let's break them down. First up, the ideational job. This is basically language representing the world around us. It's the what of the story, the content. Next, the interpersonal job. This is all about building relationships. It's the who, your tone, your attitude, the whole vibe between you and your audience. And third, we've got the textual job. This is the nuts and bolts of organizing the message so it actually makes sense and flows. It's the how. Every sentence you make is juggling all 3 of these at once. It's amazing.
All right, theory is great and all, but you're probably wondering, how do we actually use this? So let's get practical and see how this becomes a real-world skill.
So the main building block we need to look at is the clause. This is the primary unit where all the meaning-making happens, and we can break any clause down into 3 simple parts. The process, which is just what's happening, the participants, who or what is involved, and the circumstances, the background details, the when, where, and how.
And the best part? You don't need a PhD in linguistics to start doing this. You can start with a really simple set of questions. Just look at a sentence and ask yourself, who or what is doing something? What is happening? To whom or what? And where, when, or how did it all go down? This simple process starts to unlock the hidden architecture of any message. So what's the payoff here? Why should you care? Well, once you have this lens, you get these incredible superpowers. You can look at a super complex text and just pinpoint exactly what it's saying. You can analyze how a news article or an ad is trying to persuade you. And maybe most importantly, you can start structuring your own writing to have the biggest possible impact.
Okay, let's look at a classic, concrete example. Active versus passive voice. In the active voice, I made a mistake. Simple, right? The participant, I, is right there, front and center, taking responsibility. But now, watch this. A mistake was made. Poof! The person who made the mistake, they've completely vanished from the sentence. This isn't just a tiny style choice, it's a huge shift in meaning and accountability.
And this isn't just a grammar nerd thing. This choice has massive, real-world consequences. A scientist might use the passive voice on purpose. The solution was heated, because it puts all the focus on the experiment itself, not the person in the lab coat. It creates a sense of objectivity. But a politician? They might use that exact same structure to kind of, dodge responsibility. Once you see how this works, you'll start seeing it everywhere. You become a much more critical reader.
And all of this really leads us to one big final takeaway. The language you choose, it really, really matters.
Let's just bring it all back to this one core idea. Grammar isn't a cage of rules you're trapped in, it's a palette of colors. It's that control panel we talked about, full of choices that you, the communicator, get to make every single day to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. So, I'm going to leave you with a question. And it's not for me to answer, it's for you. Now that you know that grammar isn't just the test of being right, but a powerful system of choice, what meaning will you choose to make?